March 1980, torrential rain hammers down on the Ecuadorian city of Ambato, deep in the Andes mountain range. The rain is so intense that rivers overflow, mudslides carve through neighborhoods, and whole streets vanish beneath tides of brown water. Rescue crews move slowly through the devastation, wading through debris, hauling out fragments of collapsed homes, searching for survivors. Families watch helplessly from the hillsides, waiting for news of loved ones swept away in the floods. But then, amid the tragedy and chaos, something unexpected is found. On the banks of a swollen river, searchers uncover the remains of a young girl. At first, they assume she drowned in the flood, like so many others. But her body tells a different story. She had been brutally strangled, with such extreme violence that her eyes had bulged from their sockets. Then another young girl's body is found, and then a third and a fourth. 4 young girls, all assaulted and strangled in the exact same manner, unearthed from their shallow graves by the storm. For the locals, this horrific discovery confirms what they had long suspected, because for months, dozens and dozens of young girls between the ages of 8 and 12 had been disappearing across the mountainous regions of Ecuador. And now they know. Someone is hunting their daughters. February 15th, 2015, Carlos Jácome, 62 years old, closes his bakery in Guayaquil for the day. He makes the same journey he's made every year for 35 years. To Ambato, to the cemetery, to his daughter. In his hands, white roses, always white roses. He kneels before a stone that reads Ivanova Jácome Garzón. Born 1971, died 1980, age 9. His wife Luz couldn't bear it. She fled to Italy 15 years ago. Some say she lost her mind, but Carlos keeps his promise. Every February 15th, the day they found her body. Today he'll tell us what happened to Ivanova and why no one stopped it. Let me take you back to early 1980. Ecuador is in crisis. For months, girls have been vanishing, dozens of them, ages 7 to 14. Parents plead with police to investigate, but authorities dismiss the reports. They tell families their daughters probably ran away, or they blame human trafficking networks operating in the region. The residents know better. Parents search desperately. Posters are plastered on walls, rewards offered, ads placed in newspapers. None of the missing children are ever found until the flood. When those 4 bodies are discovered in Ambato, everything changes. Because now it's clear to everyone that something much darker than police claimed is happening. A serial predator is hunting children across the nation. And he's still out there. February 14th, 1980. Ambato, Los Andes neighborhood. Ivanova Jácome, 9 years old, leaves for school that morning. Blue overalls, light blue shirt for physical education class. Her route takes her past her father's bakery. She always stops by around 11 in the morning. Carlos remembers waiting for her. 11 o'clock comes. No Ivanova. Noon. Still no Ivanova. He goes home to check. The house is empty. Carlos and Luz search everywhere. They post hundreds of flyers. They offer a substantial reward. The police tell them she probably ran away. Run away? A 9-year-old girl from a loving, wealthy home? 1 month passes. 1 month of not knowing. And here's the torture of it. Every day you wake up hoping yesterday was a nightmare. Every knock on the door could be her. Every phone call could bring her home. Until February 15th, when the call finally comes. But it's not the call you prayed for. Carlos drives to the site where they found her. In a wooden box, under a bridge, blue overalls, red apron with white polka dots. His daughter. There are no words for what happens next. Carlos collapses. The sound he makes, witnesses would later say, is a sound no parent should ever have to make. But Ivanova wasn't the first. Let me take you back 9 months earlier, May 5th, 1979. Plaza Urbina Market, a busy Saturday. 11-year-old Hortensia Gares sells newspapers in the crowded square. She holds up that day's edition, shouting the headline, "Alarming Disappearance of Ecuadorian Girls Continues." Think about that for a moment. She's warning people, trying to sell papers about the very danger she's standing in. Hortensia needs the money. Her family is struggling. She's about to become a big sister. By evening, Hortensia hasn't come home. Her father runs to Plaza Urbina. She's vanished. 3 days later, the newspaper headline reads, "Another girl missing." It's Hortensia, when the March flood reveals those 4 bodies under the bridge. One of them is her. 9 months buried. Nothing left but bones and the clothes her parents immediately recognize. Remember that, because the pattern is becoming clear. March 9th, 1980. One day after Ivanova's body is found. Plaza Urbina Market. Sunday morning. Before the market opens, the vendors gather. Carlina Ramon, who runs the hot potato stall, reminds everyone to be vigilant. "Watch your daughters," she tells them. "The monster is still hunting." Her own daughter, Maria, 11 years old, will be working a refreshment stand that day. 10 in the morning arrives. The plaza fills with crowds. A tall, thin man with wavy brown hair and a toothless smile approaches Maria's stand. He's carrying trinkets, buttons, matches, cheap jewelry. He pulls out a crumpled 100 sucre bill. Much more than any drink costs. "I need help finding the bus to Guayaquil," he says. "I'll pay you to show me the way." Maria refuses. Something feels wrong. The man wanders off. At noon, he returns. This time, he approaches Maria's friend at another stand. Same story, same offer. The friend refuses too. The girls tell Carlina what happened. 2 in the afternoon. Watch what happens next. Carlina spots the man coming out of a butcher shop across the street. His abnormally large hand is wrapped around the tiny hand of a 9-year-old girl. He's leading her away from the plaza. Carlina doesn't hesitate. She screams that the man is kidnapping a child. She runs over and grabs his arm. The man tries to wriggle free, but Carlina holds on with everything she has. Within seconds, nearly a dozen vendors swarm him. They pin him to the ground. Realizing he can't escape, the man stops struggling. He offers them that toothless smile. "I'm just a simple traveling street vendor," he says. "The girl is showing me to the bus station." Some of the men start to believe him. They relax their grip. But Carlina doesn't buy it for a second. "This is him," she shouts. "This is the one taking our girls." Police arrive. They take him into custody. They've just caught the monster of the Andes. They just don't know it yet. Back at the Ambato police station, Captain Pastor Cordova faces a problem. The man they arrested is ranting incoherently. At first, he doesn't seem like the organized predator they've been hunting. He just seems like a deranged madman. But Captain Cordova has a hunch. The man gives his name, Pedro Alonso López, 31 years old, Colombian. During questioning, officers beat him, trying to extract information. It doesn't work. Pedro refuses to talk. Captain Cordova changes tactics. He discovers Pedro claims to be a devout Catholic. So he comes up with a risky plan. Officer Pastor Gonzalez, whose name ironically means shepherd, poses as a priest who's been arrested for similar crimes. They place him in Pedro's cell. For days, Gonzalez stays in character, slowly gaining Pedro's trust. Finally, Pedro opens up. And what he tells Officer Gonzalez shakes him to his core. "The girls?" Pedro says. "I killed them. Not traffickers. Me." He pauses, then continues. 300 girls, maybe more, across 3 countries, Ecuador, Colombia, Peru. He describes his methods in chilling detail. How he lured children from marketplaces in daylight. How he assaulted them in isolated locations. how he strangled them with his bare hands at sunrise. I had to watch their eyes, Pedro says. It was only good if I could see their eyes. Officer Gonzalez is so terrified that he sleeps every night with a towel wrapped around his neck, afraid that Pedro will discover he's not really a priest and strangle him in the darkness. When Gonzalez finally leaves the cell, he tells his colleagues, "What he told me is beyond comprehension. This man is not just another criminal, he is a monster." Pedro is confronted with the truth. His cellmate was a police officer all along. And here's what's chilling. Pedro doesn't backtrack. He doesn't deny anything. Instead, he doubles down. "If you doubt my claims," he says, "I'll prove it. I'll take you to the graves." Over the next 6 weeks, Pedro Lopez leads police to 110 locations across Ecuador. Shackled in leg irons, he guides them through mountains, fields, and riverbeds. Site 1, farmland outside Ambato. Officers dig. They find 3 girls buried together. Site 5, a riverbank near the city. Pedro points to a spot. "There," he says. They excavate. More remains. At one point, Pedro lifts a victim's skull and tries to pose with it like a trophy. Police refuse to photograph him. By Site 12, they're finding locations where no bodies remain. Animals and weather have destroyed the evidence. By Site 28, construction work has poured concrete over graves. But Pedro remembers every location with disturbing precision. Each site, he tells a story. "This one I found at the market. This one I followed for 3 days. This one believed I was lost and wanted to help." And here's where it becomes unbearable. Families arrive at the sites. Mothers identify their daughters by scraps of clothing. Fathers clutch tiny shoes and weep over bones. Some mothers collapse when they see the remains. Others scream, pass out. Fathers punch walls, punch the ground, punch anything solid enough to absorb their rage. Captain Pastor Cordova watches the procession of grieving parents, one after another, viewing bodies. Years later, he would describe it as the most painful thing he'd ever seen in his life. By Site 80, Pedro stops cooperating. "I'm tired," he says. "I've proven enough." In total, police recover the remains of 57 girls in Ecuador, but Pedro confessed to killing over 100 in Ecuador alone, and claims he murdered around 100 in Colombia and 100 more in Peru. Let that number sink in for a moment. 300 children. Investigators believe him. Because as Major Victor Lascano, governor of the Ambato prison, put it, "If someone confesses to 53 you find, and hundreds more you don't, you tend to believe what he says. I think his estimate of 300 is very low." Remember that phrase, very low, because the horror might be even worse than anyone knows. But here's the question that haunts this case. Could Pedro have been stopped earlier? The answer is yes. Let me take you to Peru, 1978. The Ayacucho region. Indigenous communities in the southern mountains. For months, girls have been vanishing from villages. Young indigenous girls between 8 and 12. Families report their daughters missing. Police do nothing. Then one day, villagers catch Pedro in the act. He's trying to abduct a 9-year-old indigenous girl. The community doesn't wait for authorities. They strip him, beat him, bury him up to his neck in the earth. Then they pour honey over his face and neck. The ants will do the rest, slowly, painfully. And here's where everything goes wrong. An American missionary passing through the region pleads with the villagers to spare him. "Don't kill him," she says. "Let the authorities handle this. Let the justice system work." The villagers reluctantly agree. They hand Pedro over to Peruvian police. And the police response? They deport him. Don't investigate, don't charge him, don't even question him. They simply escort him across the border back into Colombia and release him. Why? Because indigenous lives, indigenous daughters, were treated as disposable by a system built on colonial violence. That still operates today. Remember that. Because if those villagers had been allowed to execute Pedro that day, hundreds of girls would still be alive. Instead, a well-meaning missionary and an indifferent police force enabled 2 more years of murder. July 1981. Pedro Lopez stands before a judge in Ecuador. He pleads guilty to 57 murders. The courtroom is packed with families, with reporters, with a public demanding justice. The verdict comes down. 16 years. Not 16 years per victim, 16 years total. Do that math. That's 52 days per murdered child. Families are outraged. They petition the president for the death penalty to be reinstated just for this case. The president refuses. Put your trust in the justice system, he says. So they do. And the system fails them. August 31st, 1994. Pedro Lopez walks out of prison. Not after 16 years, after 14. Good behavior. He's immediately deported to Colombia, where authorities have been waiting. Because Pedro confessed to murdering over 100 girls in Colombia too. Finally, he'll face real justice. Except he doesn't. Instead, Colombian authorities declare him mentally ill. He's sent to a psychiatric facility, February 1998. 4 years later, doctors declare Pedro cured. Here's what you need to know about that. Psychopathy cannot be cured. Every expert knows this. The forensic psychiatrist who evaluated him in prison in Ecuador described him as having severe antisocial personality disorder and being completely devoid of empathy. These are not conditions you recover from, but Colombia declares him cured anyway. Pedro Lopez walks out of the psychiatric facility. The conditions of his release, $50 bail, monthly check-ins with authorities. That's it. Pedro posts his bond and leaves. He never attends a single check-in, not one. And nobody stops him. September 22nd, 1999. The last confirmed sighting of Pedro Alonso López. He walks into a government office in Bogotá to renew his national identification card. He completes the paperwork without any alerts being triggered. Then he walks out and vanishes. 2002, 3 years after Pedro disappears, 2 young girls are murdered in Tolima, Colombia. The method is disturbingly familiar. Colombian authorities ask Interpol to issue an international warrant for Pedro López's arrest. The warrant is issued, but it yields nothing. No sightings, no arrests, no leads. 2005. The Interpol warrant is quietly deactivated. No explanation given. That same year, Pedro's identification card is officially declared dead through a forensic fingerprint test. But here's the problem. The Colombian government registry still shows his ID as active. Is he dead? Is he alive? Nobody knows. 2012, Tunja, Colombia. 12-year-old Andrea Marcela Garcia Buitrago is found murdered, strangled. Rumors spread immediately. Could it be him? There's no proof, no evidence, no arrest, just the haunting possibility. If Pedro Lopez is still alive, he would be 77 years old now. Carlina Ramon, the woman who caught him at Plaza Urbina, spoke about his disappearance years later. He won't live long, she said. It will be a kindness to the world for someone to murder this fiend. Perhaps someone, even the police, have already killed him. If they have, I hope they made him suffer. Back in Ambato, Carlos Jácome still makes his journey every February 15th. White roses for Ivanova. 35 years later, he's still keeping his promise. His daughter is still buried, incomplete, because some of her remains were never recovered. Just like dozens of other families who will never have full closure. The truth is brutal. Whether Pedro was killed in revenge, died in obscurity, or continued murdering in anonymity, nobody truly knows. The only certainty is this. Pedro Lopez confessed to hundreds of killings, led police to dozens of graves, and then walked free. Twice. But Pedro's story isn't just about one monster. It's about the systems that created him. The systems that ignored his victims because they were poor, because they were indigenous, because they were girls who society decided didn't matter. The systems that released him not once, but twice. The systems that lost track of one of history's most prolific serial killers and can't even confirm if he's dead or alive. Those systems still exist today. Street children across Latin America still face the same dangers. Indigenous communities still fight to have their missing daughters taken seriously. Families still wait for justice that may never come. If you want to support organizations working to protect vulnerable children and advocate for Indigenous rights, I've linked them in the description below, because Pedro Lopez may have vanished into the shadows. But the fight for justice continues in the light. Sombra. Every shadow hides the truth. Every truth demands justice.